So a lot of people have been asking, what are the main differences of ranking on the classic Google like search and the AI mode, which is basically Google's version of ChatGPT, which in my opinion, they're going to win the race because why would anyone go on Google to go on ChatGPT to use ChatGPT when you can just go on Google itself and just click this tab and use the Google's version of GPT inside of it. So I want to go over what the main differences are for ranking on here, on the classic search engine, where there's a bunch of ads and then only the organic down here, versus something like this, which is Google's AI mode, where it's more of a conversational search engine, and based off of your prompt, you can iterate back and forth, okay? But first, we have to understand the difference on how these two engines work. So the classic one is not a back and forth one. You cannot iterate upon your search, right? You search something, then you go in, you click this, you read through the Reddit comments, you click this, you read through the listicle, read through like the post, maybe you watch like a YouTube video. So you are actively doing the work that in the AI mode, the AI does for you. In other words, like on the classic one, you search for it, again, you do all the work manually. On the AI mode, well, then what it's doing, it's, as you can see, right, there's a bunch of these sources or sites it went to. So it went to Reddit, right? It clicked the Reddit thread, it read through the Reddit comments, it clicked this blog post, it read through the blog post, maybe it watched the YouTube video. So it did all the work for you and then compiled the information or the conclusions of its search on a little text thingy that you can read and even interact back and forth. So going here to my whiteboard, I've went over this stuff once, but I'll do it again. Like, you got to think of this as the GPT or AI mode or Perplexity or Grok or whichever one you want to use, right? They all work as like funnels, right? Where you prompt it with something, give it a prompt, right? And then it gives you an answer. And then based off of the answer, you can refine it, right, with multiple prompts. Refine the answer with prompts over and over again until you're down here, down the funnel with the answer that makes sense or the answer you're happy with, which leads you to buying the product or buying the service or learn about XYZ, right? So it is a back and forth prompt, answer, prompt, answer, prompt, answer. While in the classic engines, right, you just search up something, right? And then again, as you saw before, like an article shows up and then maybe a Reddit thread shows up and then maybe, who knows, a YouTube video shows up, right? And then again, in the classic engine, right, you just click in, you can read the article, right? And then you click in and you read and skim through the Reddit comments. And maybe you just go out and watch the YouTube video. Then based off of the info you collected, right, you make a conclusion. While with these, again, be it GPT, any LLM-based engine, GPT, Perplexity, Grok, AI mode, Claude, whichever you want to use, right? What it does is based off of your prompt, right? It goes in and does all the work that you did manually automatically for you and then compiles all that info in a little text box as you saw right here. So it's way, way more convenient. Okay, and there's a couple nuances here which are important. First things first is that usually on Google, right, on the classic search, you're just going to type in for stuff like, hey, Herman Miller alternative. Okay, so it's a chair brand, right? While on GPT, you might search for something like, or the prompt might be something more complex, like Herman Miller alternative. Oh, never mind. This is to, I'm looking for a chair because my back hurts. I've heard Herman Miller, sorry for the typing, is great but super expensive. Are there any similar brands out there that can maybe fix my back pain? So all this prompt is saying is basically the same thing, because there's infinite ways in which you can say the same thing. And all this prompt is saying is, hey, yeah, I want a Herman Miller chair alternative, right? I'm looking for a chair because back hurts. Okay, good to know, back hurts. Maybe I'll recommend him a chair for Herman Miller who has reviews about back pain. Maybe when I'm browsing Reddit, I'll go in and find, okay, which model of Herman Miller chairs is best for back pain. This is just extra context, okay? But again, they're super expensive, so I'm looking for an alternative. Okay, so I'm looking for a Herman Miller chair alternative that's cheaper, right? So it has all this context, but all in all, what it's going to do is going to go on Google search or Bing and search for, hey, Herman Miller alternative, read through the Reddit comments, find what people are saying about XYZ models, see the pricings on different listings, on different sites, read through the blog post, whatever, and taking all that info and concise it in like a little short answer for you. Point being is that all the work it's doing, or the work you were doing manually, now the AI is doing for you. In other words, it means that there's no one-to-one correlation between the guy ranking first right here and the brand being mentioned or cited first right here, because you can be ranking 100th, right? where no human on Google is going to go. Like no human is going to go to the 100th result, and read that. But you could be right here ranking 100th with a great blog post or a great listicle or a great page that talks about, hey, I've tested Herman Miller chairs, I've tested them all, I bought them all, and here's a mega breakdown of every single one of them, what they do, what they're good for, how they fixed or didn't fix my back pain. So a super in-depth review article that you wrote with the images, videos, and a bunch of cool stuff, right? Which for whichever reason is not really ranking because you'd be competing with Herman Miller chair alternative, which is a very high competitive keyword, which is very hard to rank, okay? Because I'm not sure you know, right? Maybe you know by now, right? Ranking on Google, they say it's just about producing helpful content. But if you produce helpful content, but there's no backlinks, your site's not properly optimized, so the speed sucks, there's no schema, your meta title sucks, there's the bunch of nuance when it comes to SEO. It's not just about producing content. Producing content is just one pillar of the SEO game. There's three main ones: off-page, on-page, and technical. Which I'll leave a free course down below on how to like dive deep into all that stuff. That's more beginner level SEO. Again, if you want to check that out, check out the free course down below. Point being is that, yeah, for whichever reason they're ranking 100th with great content, okay, which is not enough to get them to first because they're missing a bunch of stuff. Regardless of that, right? If based off of your prompt, right, when the AI is going and reading, clicking, right, it won't stop. It will only stop until it has the best answer, right? And what if the first three results don't provide it with the best answer? It's not going to give you a bad answer because all these guys want to do, both LLM-based engines or Google and Bing, all they want to do is give you the correct answer the fastest. So why would ChatGPT, for example, stop just reading the top three Google results if they're not good enough to provide the info correctly to answer the user's prompt? They won't. So they'll go to the 100th if they need to. And proof of this is that Ahrefs did a study recently where it shows basically that a third, right, 1/3 or almost a third of the pages or the citations right here, or the links right here, right, the brands, the brand mentions cited in LLMs in specific ChatGPT, 1/3 of them don't even show up on Google. In other words, 1/3 of the brands that show up right here as mentioned as citations don't get any human traffic. So this just goes to show that, yeah, even if you get zero human traffic because you don't rank on Google, right, you can still get human traffic indirectly because the AI is going to go there, read it, right, on the 100th page, and then recommend or cite that to the user. So yeah, sure, you don't get direct human traffic, but you can get indirect human traffic because the AI is going in, doing all the research for you, and then putting it in front of your eyes. Hopefully that made sense. This is a study done by Ahrefs that basically says you don't need to rank on Google in order to be mentioned inside in GPT. Of course, it does help, right? Because still 2/3 of that there's a sort of a direct correlation. Just 1/3 is where there isn't a correlation. Hopefully that made sense. And here's another example from a couple of screenshots I took. Like if you just type in, I think this is Perplex. This is GPT. Best alternatives to Herman Miller. Right. The very first mentioned citation is autonomous, which is just, if you click here, just a simple blog post. Simple blog post with an image. Like why people love it, whatever, or Herman Miller, like a simple blog post, which honestly talks about Herman Miller, but then it says, hey, listen, yes, they are great, but here's why we're better. It's just a big call to action to their own chair. There's a table of contents, there's of course links or ads to their Black Friday sale where they sell the competitors to Herman Miller, right? Simple, like a listicle, simple 10 best alternatives, whatever. Just a simple blog post, okay? Then again, if you type in the similar prompt on Google, right, this is not them, then there's Reddit, then there's AI reviews, and there's these guys, and there's these guys. So they're nowhere to be seen. This one right here, autonomous, where that's cited first or mentioned first for this prompt on GPT, is nowhere to be seen on the first page of Google. So what I said here, theoretical, applies because there's data to show, and then there's my empirical data from what I've searched. And if you do the same thing, you'll notice that as well. But it's super cool to see this. It's one of the most valuable things I learned this year about LLM SEO, which is that keep on producing content. Even if it doesn't get any direct human traffic, you never know if based on whichever prompt someone's searching for, it can't get indirect human traffic, right? And this goes for e-commerce, for software, like for example, for our own brand, Arvo, we're a software business, but this applies across the board, right? We have like these feature pages where we just talk about our features. If you're like an e-commerce store, you have like product pages. If you're an agency or a local business, you have like location pages or service pages, right? And on these pages, like for example, for this feature, right? There's stuff right here that's super small, like just a one-liner, thing right here, which most likely will never rank on Google for, I don't know, smart redirects, right? But we never know if someone's searching on Google on AI mode or GPT for, hey, I'm looking for an AI SEO tool that does XYZ. That's the very first prompt, okay, very first prompt. Boom. The answer is, yeah, here's a bunch of them, okay? Maybe we don't show up here. Then the prompt is, okay, yeah, but I'm looking for a tool that does internal linking and also does meta optimization. Oh, funny enough you asked, there's this one right here that actually mentions it on their site because the AI is going to browse our site. And because we talk about it here, and it's just the smallest paragraph, well, then there's a chance of us being recommended. So even though this page is nowhere to be seen for SEO tool that does internal linking automatically, we don't rank for that, I don't think even the top 10, right? Doesn't matter. Because with LLMs, it's fun. You're prompting it back and forth and being hyper-specific, and you're instructing the AI to go in and dive deep into the websites further along than the first page of Google. So point being is that you have to mention all this stuff. Be specific, be hyper-specific. And this goes for e-commerce as well. And I give this example all the time. Like, for example, if you go to Epic Gardening, they're a garden shop, right? They are hyper-specific, even in their product listings, right? They talk about what their garden beds are made out of, like non-toxic USDA-approved paint. They don't rank for this on Google. They don't rank for non-toxic USDA-approved paint garden beds. They don't, right? But you never know if someone's searching on Google for, hey, I'm looking for I'm a beginner gardener and I'm looking for a garden bed that is good for my vegetables. It recommends you a bunch of them, right? But then you say, hey, yeah, but all these are like made out of metal. And I've heard that there's ones that are made of like metal, but that they're painted with some paint that's toxic, and like they get into the toxicity of the paint gets into the soil, and then the plants breathing that toxicity, and then you're eating toxics. Then it says, yeah, sure, some of the brands that do that, but there's this one brand that sells non-toxic USDA-approved paint. Here's a link. And the only reason why it's mentioned or cited is because they have this one-liner on their site that talks about it, right? They have no blog post talking about it. They have nothing like super in-depth talking about it or trying to optimize to rank on Google for that. They just have this one-liner on their site. And it's enough because, again, based off your prompts, the AI is like just going across the web and searching, clicking Reddit links, clicking your website, browsing your site, browsing the competition to know who has this or who hasn't this based off of your prompt, which now is, hey, I'm looking for ones that have non-toxic paint. And so the AI is going to be going over and doing all that again and finding, okay, oh, actually, there's this one site that sells non-toxic USDA-approved paint garden beds. Here's a link. Hopefully that made sense. That's what I learned this year. Not all I learned, but part of the stuff I learned this year. One of the most important things I learned this year was that while building Ahrefs itself, because we actually use Ahrefs to grow Ahrefs. In fact, if you go to ahrefs.com/case studies, you'll see that one of our latest case studies is how we grew Ahrefs leads for ChatGPT by 38%. And there's even a case study right here video you can watch all the way through. But that's basically it. Yeah, that's it. And by the way, if you are still here, please click here to watch this video because YouTube thinks it is helpful. So yeah, that's it. Just take care, watch the video, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.